DreAllDay.com.
Dre Baldwin, DreAllDay.com. I want to talk a little bit more on this concept of how so many of us get controlled by fear. And I'm going to speak to something specific, then I'm going to draw it out to a bigger idea. So some of you might know I had a child, from when I'm recording this, I had a child like 2 weeks ago, right? So when you have a kid, of course, you want your kid to be seen by doctor, check them out, make sure everything's good, make sure there's no complications, etc., pediatricians, all of that. So the thing that I've noticed over the last 2 weeks, and the time, it hasn't been like a crazy amount of time, but the time that I've spent in hospitals and talking to doctors and dealing with like nurses and whoever these people are, everybody got a different title and all this stuff. And then one person comes in, they ask you a bunch of questions, and somebody else comes in and they got something, and somebody else comes in, and people, sometimes the stories change and all this stuff. I'm not saying this is the case with everybody. So if you're a doctor or a nurse, I'm not talking about you personally. If I didn't say your name, don't take it personal what I said. If you did, then that's your fucking problem. But what I've noticed about the medical system in America, and this is not just from the last 2 weeks, but the last 2 weeks have cemented this idea in my mind. And this is something that I already had this idea, and I've already heard it from a lot of people who have a lot more extensive experience dealing with the medical system in America. And I'm not just talking about with babies. I'm not just talking about in Miami or anywhere. Is that the medical system here in the United States of America, and some of you may already notice, it is not based on health or healing people. That is absolutely not based on that at all. What is based on is, and this goes to my bigger point, is based on fear, and then getting you to pay to basically alleviate that fear, even though the thing that whatever they do may not have anything to do with your health or your healing. This is the whole deal. And I think I told this story. I talked about this when I did the other video on fear, how I went and saw this doctor because my knee was bothering me, and he's like, they was gonna put a shot of something in my knee and destabilize my knee. In other words, I couldn't walk for like 3 or 4 weeks or something that he was saying. Maybe it was 6 weeks, I can't remember what it was. Then you gotta go to a physical therapist, who of course they recommend, so they get a cut of the money. We know how it works. And then after like 4 months, maybe I might be able to start trying to run again. And that's what they told me. Then I went and talked to somebody else, a guy who's a physical therapist, who's kind of like not in the medical industry, but does his own thing, independent dude. Paid this dude $100. He showed me in 1 hour a bunch of exercises to do. I did those exercises for like 4 weeks. I was back running, winning 10Ks 2 months later. And again, I'm not saying everybody does this, and I'm not saying that maybe their plan would have worked out too had I followed theirs. The whole point is, their whole system, America and the medical system, is all based on scaring you. Then when they get you scared enough, then they tell you have to do this. And then everything that you have to do, every single thing they do to you costs money. And then it's just milking you out of your money. Either money out of your pocket, those of you who are self-pay, you don't have any kind of insurance or nothing like that, or they just get the money from the insurance companies, and the insurance company paid all the money, but you're paying for insurance, or the government is paying for your insurance, depending on how you get it. But either way, it's all about milking money out of people, not based on, hey, you're going to pay us because we're going to help you. It's based on, you're going to pay us because you're afraid of what we just told you will happen if you don't pay us. That's what the whole system is based on. And I'm starting to notice this more and more acutely the more experience I get in seeing the way these people operate. And again, this video is not even about the American medical system. It's not about medicine or doctors or nurses or any of that. But here's the bigger picture. When I really thought about this, the thing that came to mind and what led to me recording this is that this is how people get controlled in all of life. Is that somebody shows you something, or you think something. Often this is usually the case. It's not somebody showed you something or told you something or did anything. It's you thought something. You just got this idea in your mind that came from your own head. Nobody made you think it. Nobody told you to think it. Nobody did it to you. You just came up with this own idea in your head that this thing that you're afraid of, that you don't want to happen, might happen, or maybe you think it's starting to happen, and you allow that fear to slow you down, keep you from doing the thing that you could do or that you want to do. And it basically, that fear, it puts obstacles in your way. It's kind of like what Robert Greene talked about in chapter 28 of the 48 Laws of Power, when he talks about entering action with boldness. And what he says is that fear And hesitation, what it does is put obstacles in your way. In other words, when you're in a fearful, hesitant state, you start to see obstacles that don't even exist. And you start to slow yourself down, and you don't even need to be slowing yourself down for no reason. It's just because the fear is blocking. The fear becomes an obstacle in itself, even though the fear is not a real thing. Like they say, false entities appearing real. And when you are bold and you're in a more aggressive, active, forward moving state, you eliminate objects out of your way because you're not allowing things to slow you down. You are moving things out of your way rather than letting things get in your way. And this is what really gets in a lot of people's way in all of life. The medical industry is a good example of this, simply because everybody here understands the concept of going to the hospital, going to the doctor. And the way it is in the United States, which I know is a unique type of system compared to damn near every other country, is a good example simply because you know what it means. You know what it feels like, at least if you're from the United States. So the whole point here's the takeaway of what I want you to do with what I'm sharing here today is you have to become more conscious and aware of when fear is getting in your way, when it's slowing you down, when it is putting obstacles in your path that do not actually exist, when it is causing you to hesitate and not take action when the path to action is clear and is right there in front of you, but you just didn't do it. You got to check yourself. You got to catch yourself rather doing this. And when you catch yourself doing it, you got to do something about it. You got to check yourself. As I'll tell y'all, I'll probably go into more detail on this when I write about it, whenever I get around to doing it. But in the last couple of weeks, dealing with hospitals and nurses and doctors around my child and the kind of stuff what they do is they try to fear you. They try to scare you into doing things that you don't actually need to do, but they try to make you feel like, they don't make you feel like, but they try to make you feel like if you don't do these things or you don't accept their protocol, that you're doing something wrong, that something's going to happen to your child, that you're somehow bad as a parent. And this is what they do. This is their whole protocol. This is their whole system. And I'm not even saying that the nurses and the doctors, we're not going to speak for the doctors, let's just say the nurses, that the nurses who push these things and say these things, no, actually, let's put the doctors in it as well. I'm not saying that they're necessarily wrong, because most of them have been trained to do this. They've been trained in this. So this is like conditioned in their mind. So it's not that they are personally coming in saying, all right, this person right here, I'm gonna try to scare them into doing something. No, they're so used to everyone accepting it and everyone just going along with it, because when you walk in with that lab coat on, you have an air of authority, and people are used to accepting that authority and just complying with whatever you say. I mean, we saw this over the last 3 years, right? You had doctors coming out and saying, okay, well, if you don't do this, if you don't take this, if we can't put this in your body, then you're endangering yourself, you're endangering grandma, you're endangering everyone around you. I mean, y'all know the deal. I mean, y'all are alive. Y'all know what's been happening over the last 3 years. So I ain't even got to explain that. And then if you don't do it, they try to shame you or make you feel guilty or try to scare you into, hey, you're putting yourself and everybody else in danger by not doing this thing that I'm telling you should do. Why should I do it? All right, here's an argument against why I shouldn't do it. And there's no logical pushback to it. There's no logical, okay, I understand what you're saying, but understand this. You don't get that. You haven't heard a conversation like that. Ain't been too many of them. If there were any, there weren't too many of them. Not any that were reasonable, logical, and objective. There were a bunch that were emotional, but that's the whole point. That's exactly the point that I'm making, is people try to use fear to control you and move you to action just based on, oh, well, if you don't do this bad thing is going to take place. And this is what people do all of life. Again, all of life is set up like this. When people want to control you and they can't control you with like their basic argument, people's last resort when they want to control you, you'll notice this if you start paying attention. And some of you are guilty of this too, so let's keep it real. When people can't control you with their logical point, their last resort is to try to scare you. Is, hey, you don't do this bad thing is going to occur. And as I believe it was, I can't remember who it was that allegedly said this, but the saying is, I had a whole bunch of terrible things occur in my life, a whole bunch of terrible experiences in my life, none of which actually occurred, or something like that, most of which actually never occurred, something along those lines. In other words, most of the things that we're afraid of in life never come to fruition. They never actually happen. But the fear of the fear, which is what really gets in people's ways, not the fear of a real thing. Because again, fear, the definition of fear is your awareness of a clear and present danger. There's no clear and present danger most of the time. It's just the thought of it. It's the, what's the word? It's the idea of a clear and present danger that slows people down. So it's not really fear, it's the fear of fear that gets in people's way and slows them down from actually doing things. And that's what robs a lot of people of their success. It's what robs people of opportunity, because it robs you of your personal initiative, which is what? The go-getter energy that moves you to go make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. Because nobody wants to go make things happen when they feel afraid, when they feel like, damn, if I go do this, some bad thing is going to occur, or something bad is going to happen to me, or something bad is going to happen to my kid, or something bad is going to happen to my grandma. All right, you don't have initiative when you're thinking like that, because you're worried about what the hell is going to happen to you. All right, you're worried about how things are going to get worse if you take this action or if you don't take this action. And that's how people get controlled in life. So if you really look around at your own life and at the things that you have done that you didn't want to do, and the things that you haven't done but you wanted to, I guarantee you fear is somewhere at the root of that problem. And it is a problem. Good thing about problems is that they all have solutions. That's why they're problems. All right, if it didn't have a solution, it wouldn't be a problem. So you can fix this. The first step, and that's what I'm talking about here today, is awareness. The first step is becoming aware of the fact that people and institutions, and this is just ingrained in many of them, they will use fear to control you as much as you allow it. That's the deal. So with that said, text me so you can get I want to send out a daily motivation. For now, it might become a weekly motivation because they just changed the price on the texting. So the texting prices went up crazy. So, and because I'm sending out texts every day, it's not just the price of texting period. It's just, if you send them out every day, they basically charge you for every text you send to every person. So right now I changed it to weekly as of this recording. So text me anyway so you can be in my text community. And if I go back to daily, you'll be getting a daily. My number is 305-384-6894. And go to workonyourgame.net to get access to my free training, which is how to go from that 6-figure level to the 7-figure level without running yourself into the ground in the process. In other words, any of you you're making good money right now, but you're killing yourself to make the money, I'm gonna tell you how you can make more money without having to work 10 times harder to make the money. Now, if you didn't think that was possible, I know you didn't think it's possible because you didn't have the strategy to do it, but I know how to do that. I know how to train. I train people to do it. I coach people on doing it, and I will coach you on how to do it. Get my free 45-minute training. At the end of that training, I'll tell you how you can get on a call with me and we can talk about how we can do it specifically for you and your business. That's at workonyourgame.net. Work on your game. Dre all day.